to Life with David. I'm David. Today I'm tackling a poorly operating carburetor on my 1968 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia. When I started, I thought that it was going to be a simple carburetor rebuild, but as I continued, I got a surprise. So why don't you join me as we chase down the problem with this bum carburetor? I'd like to spend a moment on safety. There's nothing more important than keeping you and your loved ones safe. Be sure to read, understand, and follow the safety rules for your tools. Using your tools properly will greatly reduce the risk of personal injury. And always use the appropriate eye, hearing, and respiratory personal protective equipment. In this video, we're going to be working with gasoline, so keep in mind that the fumes are dangerous, both to breathe and because it's explosive. If you don't feel comfortable doing any of these activities, then don't. Now let's get started. As you might know from a couple of my videos, I recently experienced some overheating problems with my Ghia. I've been working on the issue and hope to have it resolved soon. However, during the troubleshooting, the engine started running very poorly. Although it would idle, I had no power during acceleration and it never seemed to warm up. It would also misfire a lot. Since the ignition appeared okay, I suspected the carburetor. Since I remember when the carb was new in 1998, I originally assumed that it didn't need a rebuild. But then I realized it had been 22 years. How did the time pass by that quickly? The carburetor is pretty easy to remove. The first step is to disconnect the gas supply. After I pulled off the gas line from the top of the carburetor, I plugged it with a golf tee. Next, I removed the two nuts that fasten the carburetor to the intake manifold.
Excuse me.
I had to disconnect the idle jet cutoff wire, the throttle cable, and the vacuum advance line, as well as removing the distributor cap to get to the front nut.
Hey, down here. Stupid!
Oh, that's huge. There's a big hole there. Of course it won't work. Yeah, that's right. This Solex H30 PICT carburetor has a hole in the side to allow for machining of the carb body. After the machining is completed, a plug is installed and staked into place. After checking my online resources, I found that the plugs do fall out every now and then. Luckily, I found the plug sitting on top of the engine. I finished removing the carburetor. After it was off, I immediately crammed a rag into the intake manifold. If anything falls into the intake, I would have to remove it to get the foreign material out, and that's really tough while the engine is still in the car. After I found the hole, I changed my plan. The hole is above the butterfly valve, but below the choke plate. The engine will idle, but at any higher power, the airflow through the carburetor is so disrupted that both the mixture and the vacuum are way off. So I figured that I would first fix the hole and then decide if I needed to do a rebuild. After all, it was only 22 years old. I made sure the plug fit. There's a small mark that should point up. Then I used a little JB Weld epoxy on the outside of the plug before I reinstalled it. After I wiped away the excess epoxy, I staked the plug in place using a center punch around the rim of the plug. After the epoxy hardened, I reinstalled the carburetor, which is simply the reverse of the removal. Next, I did a static timing of the distributor to get everything in the ballpark. Finally, I started up the engine and timed it using my timing light. Everything worked much better, and I decided not to rebuild the carburetor at this time. Thanks for joining me today. We started out doing a carb rebuild on my 1968 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia, but after I discovered a hole in the side of the carb, I changed my plan. Although I don't mind doing a rebuild, I'm glad I can wait until after I've resolved the overheating problems. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. And leave a comment or suggestion for things to do. I hope to do more of these videos, so please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications of new videos. Let's get together next time for another day in Life with David. See you soon.